Well, we're back at the Tikkun Elevator Kolo learning this year on Kriat Shema. What's been going on is that we've got a little chopped up version, a little pasted up with not a whole lot of pirush on it and repetitions and so on and so forth of some basic ideas. Here we got focused really, let me bring this down a little bit more, on the concept of what was called the HaMizpalim Tefillas of the Vesikin, those who pray the prayer called Vesikin. What was his point there? Just a brief summary, we're going to go through it real quickly, is that after midnight there's a Yichud between Yaakov and Leah. This Yichud produces Mochim. These Mochim, I realized today thinking about it, are actually used to promote Leah, the Yichud between Rachel and Yaakov at Chakras, which actually takes place during the Tefillah Chakras. That is, they meet in Chakras. So that takes place at night. He said then another idea, though. Right before the time we'll just call the Aliyamul Shahar, or what we call the morning star, or we call it the ascendant, the rising sign. At this particular moment, there's an additional yichud that takes place. And then after that, the yichud stops. So we say that people, the reason why we need two Kriat Shema, this was his reasoning. I guess he could probably say it again. The reason why we need two Kriat Shema is in order to bring down the highest level of Shefa, you need to be loaded with the highest level of Mochim. And in this case, the Mochim stopped. But if you say Vesikin, right, but there is a time when you could say right before Netzah Homa, you could say the Kriat Shema. That will wipe out the need to have to say the Kriat Shema by Karbanos. Now, that's a brief, the skinny, the way that I understand it. However, the Rav was not knowing like this. Even though the Rav davened Vesikin, and even though these are his words, but he himself in practice, Rabbi Chaim Vital sees that in practice, he said both Kriat Shema. So let's hear what this is. A Rav Noag Af Al Pi Shochayim is Paluk Minhag of Vesikin, even though the Rav is praying like the customs of the Vesikin. B'hoya Omer Kriat Shema the Yotze Divnei Nates, and he said this right before Nates. He said the Kriat Shema, which is a time which we sang, was that there's an additional yichud between Yaakov and Rachel. But even so, he said the Kriat Shema of Karbanos anyway. Came in Sharafilu Shemispalavim committed with Sina, because he says like this, even though we're davening according to the custom of the Vesikin, which means that it's not really necessary to make an additional Shema in the morning. But in any case, it's only for really great people. Really, really righteous people, really truly kind, the deepest, kindest people. Until that actually helps them. They're able to move themselves up, their kavanah, and their thoughts. In order to be able to sustain or fulfill in their thought, so that this is the kavanah. That the kavanah is that the mochim that left, even though they just left like 2 minutes ago or 2 seconds ago, they're gone. But since they're close by, you can bring them. But your prayer and your kavanah is that they should come in by themselves. And then after that, the Kriat Shema v'yotze. We're going to bring in a higher level of mochim. From the mochim that we had at midnight. These are mochim that come from the most high possible imaginable place, which is called the Chitzonis of Atik. So nowadays, nobody is really fit to be able to do this. So now you see that there are Vesikim minyanim, even though you see this. There are people who do daven Vesikim. They have to say Kriat Shema twice when they come to pray the morning prayers. So let's see where we're at right now. And so it looks like there's not a lot of Pirish in the Tiv, so I'll do the best I can trying to read the words of the ARI. Mini Ein Kol Adam Roy Lakach, but it says these are the words of the Lakach Bizmaneno, that everyone is not really fit to be able to do this in our time. And that so even if you're a person who's going to begin the Amidah at Nates, and therefore the Shema would be right before that, and the timing is right. But even so, Sarek Sheyikru Kriya Shema based Pamen but the fetus of Shachar. So therefore, but still, you still have to say Kriya Shema 2 times, and it has to be at this time in the morning. So he says, Amnon. Let's reading the words of the Rav again. Amnon, but the fetus of Mincha, who Zivug Yisrael im Leah min Achaz b'Lamala. Now, we're getting different kinds of words, and we have to understand this. I don't understand it 100%. I didn't get this far in my limit. I surely would like to know this. So he says, again, Amnon b'tefilas ha-mincha hu zivug Yisrael im leah min ha-chazer b'lamala. Now, Yisrael is usually meant to mean, or I've seen it in other places in the Rav, it means parts of Zer Anpin, which is really exterior to Zer Anpin. It's the parts of above Yaakov. So it's from the Chaza of Zer Anpin, Olamala, which is where Leah is located. And at that time, that's the time when Leah and Yaakov, above the Chaza, make a Yichud. Bein Sark the Crows Kriya Shema. So therefore, since that Yichud is going on, then you don't have to read Kriya Shema. So let's go on. He says, Va'inyanhu. So what's it all about? What are you talking about here? So we already said Kriya Shema one time. And we brought in all these mochin, these great mochin that we're talking about, which come from the Chitzonius of Atik. We bring down this really tremendously high mochin. And even though we know that after tefillah they leave, but listen, let's understand something in Rochnius. The midah of the daytime is chesed. A midas alayla is gevura. So therefore the day which is chesed, and there's no such, in the time of chesed, that radiance keeps the chitzonim away. He said the shuhu yom v'chesed gover ba'olam, because it's a day, and the chesed is the most powerful at that time of the day. Now I thought he was going to say something else. I thought he was going to say that even if the mochin leave at the end of the tefillah, even if that happens, there's still a remnant of it. That's what I was going to say, the big point that you see in other places. The Sulam said this all the time, is there's no heder baruchnius. In other words, once something was there in time sequence, there is no time in this. So once it appears, it's still there. Or at least there is a remnant of it still there. I thought he was going to go that way, but he didn't. Let's go on to the next thing. And let's say the cheba is tefillas of Mincha. So now let's talk about, you're coming to the time of Mincha time. And you know, you said in Chakras, you said Shema twice. Ein Sark L'Kros Kriya Shema. You don't have to say Kriya Shema. V'liyachad Yichud Elyon. What's the purpose of the Kriya Shema? Is to make a Yichud, a cause of Yichud, and bring down Shefa. Because now at Mincha time the Mochim come back by themselves. But nonetheless, he says, you have to arouse yourself more here. And how do we do that? We do this by the tefillah of Mincha. Now this takes some hesed for me. Is a Bekihu Inyan Zivug Yisrael in Leah, because we said that this is the Yichud that takes place from the upper, that is really from the Chaz Lamala of Zer Anpin on his front, and the Chaz Lamala of Zer Anpin on his back, which is Yisrael and Leah. So the reason why you don't need the zivuk, so therefore when you're vispalam, you don't have to do that zivuk. But it is an arousal. And as a result of that, the mochim start pouring in. And they start coming back by themselves. So what is he saying? He says there's a mechanical device for bringing in mochim. It's called the Shemah Yisrael. And this brings the mochim of continence, and it brings the mochim of godless. You have to have the continence before you have the godless, so it's always works like that. Everything starts in continence. So you want to get wise, you have to realize where you're starting from. So over here he says, but here in this case, since it's still daytime and chesed is gover, so therefore they're going to come back by themselves as a result of you arousing yourself to just the daven. And you don't have to bring new mochim again like you did that you did when we had to say the Kriat Shema. So here we are now describing Mincha and the Kriat Shema in relationship to Mincha. Let's go over here and let's read what we say here. We're working with Tfilas Mincha Hazivul Ku Yisrael in Leah Minachaz Lamal. That's what we said before. Both in the location of Leah, in normal position, especially in the daytime, is in the Chaz Lamal. And the position of this partzef, which is called Yisrael, is also from the Chaz Lamal. This yichud takes place without having to go to a Kriat Shema. The Kriat Shema I read it wrong. The Hamochin shehamshachno lezah b'Kriyat Shema the Shachris. So the mochin that come into Zer Anpin as we're davening Shachris, lo nistalku legamre achat tefillah. They don't completely and totally leave. Like us, like that. This is where I got that from. V'ARI shezman tefillah is nohig kol hayom, and so we understand that the time of the tefillah of the tefillin. Okay, so proof to this. I read it wrong again. The proof to this, Shezman Tefillin, at the time, how long can you wear Tefillin? Nohig kol hayom. But Tefillin Ramazan the Mochin Shazer Anpin. The Tefillin is a concept of the Mochin, is there Anpin that actually rays of this tremendous consciousness comes out of the head of Zer Anpin, and that's the concept of the Tefillin. So that can only happen when the Mochin are present. Nimsa Shalo Nistalko Lamochin the Gamri. So therefore there has to be Mochin there anyway, since you can continue to put on Tefillin. Masha Ein came B'Laylan, which is not the case at nighttime. She'im Shum Mochin Lezah, where there are no Mochin for Zer Anpin. V'chein B'Layla loves them on Tefillin. So therefore at nighttime, the nighttime is not the time for Tefillin. So therefore you don't have to say Kriat Shema because the juice is still there. There's still a remnant of the mochin there. And so therefore they could draw the mochin back in as a result of your hisoyrus. About tzrichim lehispala tefillas amida, but you have to say Shmona Esrei. The possession is palan kadei lezavgam. And so those where we see that we're praying in order to make the yichud, then you see that the mochin coming by themselves, amiris Kriat Shema, without your having to say Kriat Shema. So he says, so the situation is after Shachris, then the mochin leaves out. So therefore when you come along and you pray Tefillas Mincha, they come back again into Zer Anpin. It's a chelik. So it's going to be a portion of that is going to come back into Zer Anpin, but not the whole portion. And all that comes back is also the portion which is the 6 kitzvos of the godless of Imav. So you don't get all of the mochin from him. You don't get the Chag 9, you only get the Chag 9. So therefore, as a result of that, that's what you got as a result of saying the Shemona Esrei in the morning, which we haven't really discussed and haven't gotten into that, but I sure do want to. So therefore the yichud is going to be less. because it's only the Chag at night that's coming into the godless of Ima. V'hu zivug Yisrael in Leah, and this causes a yichud between Yisrael and Leah. Now, let me see, there's one more, and let's try to get into it a little bit more. So he said, "V'hu kamo shekasev Rav the Kaman." The Rav wrote like this later on. V'hine kavar yudatu, you already know. Ki kadvanis atafilos heim lechaber v'lezabek zav v'nuk. The whole purpose of this is to make Yehudim. And I have a story about that, but I'm not going to, in time is short. Of his man shahoya basic mikdash kayim, and the basic mikdash was standing. Hoya mochin shalachem tedirim v'hoya mistalkin. The mochin never left. The yichud never stopped. That meant the pouring out of the consciousness of the people at that time was absolutely of the presence of the Almighty was absolutely overwhelming. We can't conceive of it. But then this temple was destroyed. Then the mochin come and go. Sometimes they're there, sometimes they're not. So they come back and they leave. This is why they are called lost and fallen. This is really, you want to understand, is the secret of what we're trying to pray for. In order to bring back to them the mochin that left them. That in the morning, who midas a chesed, who understand this, who's the man rachman. So therefore the mochim are going to be around. So therefore we see this is also the time we put on tefillin. Masha Ein came Belila, which is not the time of Lila. Lila is not the time of tefillin. Shuhu midas a gevura, this is the midah of din. And then we see that the time then of the control that the Kitzonim have, that's when you see they're in control. And for this reason, all the mochin leaves their anpin, so that these mochin should not be able to feed off of the holiness of his mochin. And that's the reason why we have this. They have the stalkels of these mochin. That's the reason why there's no tefillin at nighttime. So this is Baruch Fleischman. I am at the Tikkun Elevator Kollel.